Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Pretending to be somebody that you're not in prison is a common thing. People got their own reasons for doing what they do and all this and that, right? But being in here is hard to allow people to know who you really are, especially if you are someone that has done things that can get you hurt in prison or in the lifestyle. Let me put it that way. Because when you live in the criminal lifestyle, intentionally or unintentionally, you have to be aware of the rules of the game. And one of the biggest rules of the game is no talking, no snitching, whatever you want to call it. You don't cooperate with the police. You just don't do that, right? Especially, listen to me, especially if you are a gang member. And the pressure of all of that weighs down on you. It will force you to do things that you would never imagine that you would do. And that is what this story is about. This story is about this brother, we're going to call him Young G, right? He's a Crip. He's a Crip. And Young G grew up in a part of town that was known for gang violence and drugs and pimping and all this and that, right? It was known for that. And his brother was deep into the game, but Young G was a little mild-mannered dude. Liked to go to school. He enjoyed the field trips that they would go on to the theaters and different scientific exhibits and all of this old kind of stuff, right? And when he would come home, he would talk to his mother and father about it and tell them how much he enjoyed doing all of that stuff, right? But see, at night, when his brother would be in the room with him, he would always talk about what he had done at school, and his brother would tell him, don't nobody want to hear that. You soft, you this, you that. And it would make Young G feel like his brother didn't care about him, his brother didn't love him. So he wanted to do whatever it was that he needed to do to get his brother's approval. He craved it. He longed for it. He wanted his brother to love him. He would see his brother standing out in front of the house or at school or other places, right? And how he treated all of the people that he hung around with. He treated them better than he treated Young G. He treated them better. And he wanted that. He wanted that type of relationship with his brother. So when he turned 14 years old, he told his brother that he wanted to become a Crip. And his brother was all excited at first about it, but then he sat down and he thought about it, and he told his brother, he said, this lifestyle is not for you. Now, Young G took that as if his brother didn't want him to be near him. But what was really going on is that his brother knew that Young G wasn't cut out for this. But because they didn't have that bond, Young G interpreted what his brother said in the wrong way. And he kept on persisting and insisting that he wanted this. So finally his brother gave in. And he agreed to let him become a Crip on the same hood that he was on. And he would make sure that everything was going to be done right. And he was going to groom him and all of this and that, right? So the day came for the initiation and it went down, you know what I'm saying? And Young G got his brains knocked out. They beat him real good. And he was hurting and he was crying and all of this and that. And he lay on the ground crying. His brother walked over there to him and pulled him up off the ground and said, man, don't be crying in front of everybody. So Young G sniffled like at there and wiped the tears off his face, right? And his brother told him, you're a Crip now. You got to live up to it. And it threw him off because he was expecting his brother to be jubilant about it and jumping up and down and be happy for him and all this and that, right? But it seemed like his brother got more and more harsh with him. And he was molding and shaping him into the monster that he knew that Young G was going to have to be to survive this lifestyle. But he was only 14 years old. He didn't really understand all the things that were going on with that. So Young G, being 2 or 3 years younger than his brother, he didn't really get to hang out with his brother a lot. So he hung out with some Crips that were his age. And they were getting into all kinds of things, right? And you know, Young G still liked to go to school and do all of those types of things, but the guys that he was hanging around with, they were trying to encourage him every day to skip school. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. They wanted to be in the streets. They felt like they were missing something. School was too slow for them now. They were living a criminal lifestyle, a fast lifestyle, and they did not want to go to school because they felt like they wouldn't be involved in the business. So one day, they convinced Young G to skip school. And they went out and they robbed somebody. And they got away with it. Robbed a convenience store, got away with it. And it seems as though Young G had found his calling. The rush that he felt from that, it made him feel alive. He wasn't even concerned about the money when they got to the spot to split the money up. He was like, man, I got a rush off of that. And he was talking this talk. So the two guys, they were the same age though. They were young and they were looking at him like, man, calm down. Calm down. He was hype off of it. He wanted his brother to know what he had done. So when he got home later that day, he told his brother what had happened. And his brother said, man, you keep your business to yourself. You don't talk about stuff like that. Young G didn't understand what was going on. This is supposed to be a family. They're supposed to be able to talk and kick it. And he's trying to share something with him that he felt like should have brought them closer together. But that wasn't how it was coming. His brother was telling him, no, man, keep that to yourself. You don't discuss stuff like that. But Young G didn't understand. He wanted somebody to know what he was doing. It wasn't fun to him. He wanted to share it with somebody. How is it supposed to be good and fun if don't nobody know what you're doing? It didn't make sense to him. So the couple of years flew by. And now he's 17 going on 18, y'all. 17 going on 18. And he's got a reputation as a robber. He robbing stores. He robbing dope boys. He doing all this kind of stuff, right? And to him, life is good. He had gotten kicked out of school. Kicked out of school because he was tardy too much. His mother was having a hard time dealing with him, so she washed her hands of him. She said, you want to fall after your brother, then you go your brother's way. So Young G moved out. He moved out, and he had a girlfriend. She was just the same age as him. So his brother got one of his girlfriends, which was an adult, to get them an apartment in her name that they could stay in. So now Young G and his girlfriend, they playing house. They playing house. And they doing all the things that a couple would do, you know, young couple that's married. And he's furnishing the house by, you know what I'm saying, stealing and robbing and all this kind of stuff. And they got everything that a grown couple would have in the house. And they got a car. But they kids. No education. No education whatsoever. But they had money. They had money to pay for all the things that they needed. So he thought he was straight. He thought everything was good. So one day, his little clique, same two individuals that he done grew up in the Crip Nation with, they had a lick, a nice lick. They had a nice lick. And they wanted him to go along with them. They gonna rob a dope boy. They finna get him. So when they get to the spot where the dope boy got his stuff at, they bump down on him and tell him, like, you know what it is, drop it off. Masked up. And he looked at him, he said, I recognize your voice. Before he could say another word, one of the Crip dudes popped him. Pow! He fell down to his knee. He said, hold up, man, you ain't gotta kill me. You ain't gotta kill me, you can have it, man. You can have all this. He pulled the curtain back and showed him all the kilos of dope. Money stacked up. He said, take all that, just don't kill me. Don't kill me. Then he called the dude's name. And then the dude turned around and looked at him. Young G grabbed his arm and said, no, don't do that. They took everything he had and they got on down. Dude called 911 himself. They get there, they take him to the hospital. He tell the police everything that he knew. But he didn't tell them they robbed him for his dope and money, even though the police knew he was a dope boy. He told them they robbed him. He gave them an old fake amount of money and all this and that, right? And here they gone. He told them. First person they snatched up was Young G. And listen to me. Young G had been in and out of trouble, right? But he had never faced it like this, right? He was 17, about to turn 18. So that they talked to him a little different now. They told him, look here, man, you're going to adult court. That means the big court. They're going to try you as an adult. Yeah, try you as an adult. Yeah, you know, when they hit him, right, when the dude shot him, it was above the waist. Yeah, it was above the waist. Attempted murder. We're going to get it. We're going to get it now. So they tell him, if anything that you could tell us to help us with this case, it'll be most appreciated. And you won't get as much time as the ones you were with. What's the name of the two individuals that you were with? Now, Young G's sitting there. He didn't know this was part of the game. Yeah, he had been told this by his brother and all this and that, and he had heard the stories in the street. But when you sitting in that little box, and they got that light on you, and ain't nobody in there with you, ain't no Crip brothers in there with you, and they telling him, look, just tell us what we need to know, and then everything gonna work itself out. Now, to them, everything working itself out is they find out who did it, they go arrest them, they put them in jail with you. If y'all are fortunate, you get a bond and you can make the bond. If not, you're going to stay in jail till you go to court. See, that's what, when they say everything going to work out, means. But see, in your mind, when you're sitting in that chair and they tell you everything going to work out, just tell us what we need to know. What you're thinking is, if I tell them this is going to go away, I can go home. And it's over and done. Now, you know it's not true, but that's what you want it to be. You want it to be that. You want to close your eyes, wake up, and everything start all over again. But this is not a video game. It's not a video game. So Young G, he did what the game said he shouldn't have done. He told them everything. And then they slid, this is how they do you, right? Then they slid the notepad across to him and said, write all of that down. Now, they already recorded it, but they want him to write it down. Write everything down that you said and give us the addresses to where they live at. Their whole tone has changed. They're a little bit more aggressive. They got what they want out of it. So now, it ain't no backtracking and all this and that. So now, when he finished writing the statement out, they make him sign it and all this and that. They tell him, stand up. Turn around. Put your hands behind your back. We're charging you with attempted murder. He said, but I thought you said everything was going to be okay. He said it is. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. But for right now, we're going to take you down to the jail. We're going to put you in protective custody so that you will be straight, because you're going to have to testify to this. Now he said, what? Testify? Yeah. Yeah, we finna go pick them up. We're going to pick them up. And unless something gets worked out, yeah, you're going to have to come to trial. And if you don't, we're going to lay it all on you. You done already told us everything. Now reality sets in. This is not what he signed up for. He didn't understand how serious it was. But he wanted his brother's approval. He wanted his brother's approval. Now, this kid that used to love to go to theaters, this kid that used to love to go to the science exhibits at school and talk about all the things that he would do at school, that kid was pushing, trying to emerge from that inner part of him to where he could be recognizable again. But when he looked in the mirror in that cell, he didn't see that kid anymore. He saw somebody that he didn't recognize, and he was scared. He was scared because now he's got to pretend, y'all. He's got to pretend to be somebody that he's not, and he don't know how long he gonna have to pretend. Now look here. You know how the news people are. Everything on the news. Everything on the news. They done arrested the other two individuals. Now they got all three of them up there. And then the news media is talking about the cooperation from one of the co-defendants led to the arrest of the other two and all this. And then they showing the time that the Young G got arrested versus the time that the other two got arrested. So the streets has already decided Young G's the one that done told on them. And here we go. Now, Young G looking at it like, man, he's looking at the TV in the pod, right, where he's at, right? It's in the back, you know what I'm saying? And all the cells, everybody's locked down, but you can lean through the bars, you can look at the TV. Now, everybody that's in the back for the same reasons. They witnesses too. They all looking up at the TV. And don't nobody say nothing because all of them back in the back for the same thing. They all witnesses for the state. So he walks back over to the bunk and he lays down in the bunk and he just lays there and tears roll down his face. He just looking up at the ceiling, not knowing what his life is going to be like. So let's fast forward. Time to go to court. He makes his first court appearance, the second court appearance, the third court appearance, and now the DA is coming to talk to him at the jail, trying to get more information about what's going on because the other two talking about they want to bat it up and they want to pick a jury and go to trial. So they're trying to get Young G ready for the trial. And Young G says he don't want to do it. So the DA put the squeeze on him and tell him, you gonna do it or I'm gonna give you 25. What do you want to do? Now he's thinking about these 25 years. He ain't even 20 yet. So he can't imagine that much. He can't even imagine. He putting his hands up. He looking at. He ain't got but 10 fingers and 10 toes. He can't even imagine what 25 years gonna be like. He ain't even been alive that long. So then he starts to think about it. And he makes a tragic mistake. He writes a letter to his two co-defendants, right? And he gets one of the rock men that comes up there to clean up to smuggle the letter to both of them and tell them that he's sorry. But he don't want to spend the rest of his life in prison. So they take that, give it to their lawyers. But the lawyers say this ain't no good. This is basically confirmation that he finna testify. And that's that on that. So what y'all want to do? So they take the plea. To avoid getting flipped. And when they took the plea, that helped Young G. So now Young G ain't got to testify, but wait a minute. They got this letter and they held on to it tight. 3 or 4 months go by, Young G, they come through and they tell him, pack up, you're going to the penitentiary. He a grown man now, y'all. He 18. The system say he grown now. But he finna go up into the penitentiary with a label on him that he don't like. He don't even understand what this is gonna do because the penitentiary already know we got a Crip coming in that was a state witness and he on his way in here for real. So they ship him off to the penitentiary. And when he get there, like anybody else, when you get to the penitentiary, when you first get up in there, and the individuals that's already there, somebody gonna step to you and they gonna ask you what that is. And when they stepped to him and asked him what that is, he broke it down to him and told him who he was and what it was and all this and that, right? They said, yeah, we heard about you, snitch. And then they mobbed off and they were talking to him while they was mobbing off and they told him, ain't nothing on you, homeboy. So he looking at him, eyes wide open. He don't know what to do. He looking around. His neck is on a swivel like one of them meerkats that's stepping up out that hole out there on them nature channels. He just looking around like that there, y'all. He don't know what to expect, where it's gonna come from, right? But his senses is on high alert. The hair on his neck is standing up. He don't know what to think, but something about this ain't right. And then all of a sudden, he hear them footprints, them boots coming. They running towards him. Next thing you know, it's about 4 or 5 of them on him. And they beating him. And they beating him. And they beating him. And they stomping him and they kicking him. And they didn't have no butcher though. So the police get there, slow walking, and they break it up. And they take him, they put him in protective custody. Yeah. Now he's back in a familiar territory. But this is the penitentiary though. Protective custody ain't nothing. So he's in the back. And they come back here and they talk to him and they tell him, say, look here. What we're going to do, we're going to try to send you somewhere where you'll be safe. It's only a couple of prisons in the state where people are not concerned about this lifestyle. They're trying to go home. They want to do the right thing. So we think you'll be better if you go there. And then you'll be able to go on with your life. But let me give you some advice. This is what one of the officers told him. Let me give you some advice. You need to leave that lifestyle alone. Because the next time somebody jumps you, you might not be so lucky. These guys, they didn't have no butchers. They didn't have butchers. Because he said they could have killed you if they wanted to, if they'd had him. Next time you won't be so lucky. So walk away from that life and leave it alone and go on, do your time and get out and go on and live your life. But see, Young G couldn't hear all that. He couldn't hear all that. He was so afraid of what could happen to him that he just went numb. And he lay in the bunk, and then the next day, he got a knock on the door. The officer told him it's about 3, 4 in the morning. He said, pack up. We're shipping you off. He said, this early in the morning? It's like, yeah. We don't want nobody to know where you're going. See, they do that. Keep it clandestine. So they packed him up, and he's in the intake getting ready to put his stuff on the bus. And that officer that he had seen earlier was there early working overtime. He said, look, remember what I said. Leave that lifestyle alone and you can make it up out of here. Leave it alone. You need to let that go. And if you want to know what Young G decided, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. And before I go, let me say this, man. Hit them comment sections. Hit that like button and share these episodes, y'all. Please. I need your help on that. I'm trying to get these numbers up. You feel me? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so tired.